say good evening or good morning or good night because this is on the World Wide Web. So whether you're in the United States or Japan or Europe, maybe you're in Switzerland, Sweden, Germany, maybe you're in Brazil, but wherever you are, we'd like to thank you very much for being here and joining us this evening. We started off with a little bit of a drum fanfare, if you will, sort of your combination of how New Orleans traditional music settled into rock and roll music. And I guess that's on my mind because in music we just lost the late, great Little Richard, whose big hit Tutti Frutti was actually recorded down here in New Orleans. So that's sort of a good fanfare to start things off. So tonight with the one-man drum show, you will see showcased all of the different moods and sounds and tempo that can be displayed on the drums. Normally when a person thinks of the drum solo, they think of the loud climax at the end of a song, and then once you've played it, that's it. There's nowhere to go. But in reality, there's a lot of things that can be expressed with the drums. It's a very emotional instrument, and there's a lot of colors and moods that can be displayed. So we're going to start off with a piece that I like to call riffing the drums. And the premise has to do with just playing simple rhythms and just swinging, grooving rhythms. And it's not about playing a lot of fast notes per se and a lot of complex rhythms. It's more about simple rhythms. So we hope that you will enjoy this thing entitled Riffing the Drums. Now we're going to go from the drumsticks to the brushes. And this piece that we're going to do now is dedicated to one of the great drummers from New Orleans. He goes by the name of Adonis Rhodes. My freshman year at the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts was Adonis Rhodes' senior year. And it was funny because the first gig that I did as a band leader, Adonis Rose was actually playing the piano on the gig. Uh, but the drum piece that I'm going to do for you now reminisces on when Adonis and I would sit down on on this bench when we were downstairs in the I guess you could call it the basement area or something at the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts. It was like the lowest level, and there was this bench, and we would both have brushes, and of course he had a lot more technique than I did, but we would be trading things, going back and forth, and so forth, and it was definitely a lot of fun, and it was very inspirational. It was just inspirational for my freshman year that he was a senior year student, so it inspires you to practice and just want to play the music. You know, when you have somebody else doing it, you know, it's a great feeling. So this is sort of my reminiscence of that, and we're going to call this one Bench Brush Battle. We hope that you enjoy this one. Bench Brush Battle. Now we're going to do a piece that is about the slow jam. Now, I have to explain this a bit because if I had to be honest, you don't hear a lot of slow jams on modern day top 40 radio. Everything is really fast, and even if it's slow, the rhythm is really fast anyway. If you don't believe me, just put on some trap music and you'll see what I mean. It's a slow tempo, but the rhythms over it are really fast. So the slow jam goes back to the 1920s and 1930s. Where people might do like the tempo might be a jitterbug or something. And you would have folks that would dance to that, and you've had tempos even slower than that, and even in popular music, like in 1970s funk, for example. From what I understand, your band wasn't respected unless they had a slow jam. And I even heard a story about one band. They had kind of the same sounding songs, and people said, "Man, but they don't have any slow songs." And so they did come up with a slow song, like, "Oh, you don't think we can do this, huh?" So it was something that was an important part of the music. And so we're going to pay tribute to that and show the different iterations of that tempo. And this is entitled Evolution of a Slow Jam. Thank you very much. We hope that you are enjoying tonight's live stream. For those of you who would like to contribute and help out tonight's show, you can go to venmo.com/Jason Marsalis or paypal.me, Jason Marsalis, paypal.me/Jason Marsalis. And you can also go to basinstreetrecords.com/Jason. And for those of you who have Cash App as well, you can go to Cash App /$ Kaya Marsalis. That's Kaya Marsalis on Cash App. And for those of you who are wondering, Kaya is my wife that is at home right now with my 3 daughters. Hello to y'all. And so you can go there. I also wanted to mention too that on Basin Street Records, I had just released a new recording entitled Live. It was a live show, and I'm actually playing the vibraphones on that record, but it was a live performance at the Little Gem Saloon that the record label has just released. So for those of you who want to check that out, you can get that record on Basin Street Records site. So anyway, you can get that there, and thanks for contributing to the show. We're going to move on now and change the pace a bit. And this is a piece that is inspired by a very controversial pianist in the music world by the name of Cecil Taylor. I refer to him as controversial because when he had first came out, his playing was very abstract, even more abstract than Thelonious Monk, who was considered abstract when he first came out. This was even more so abstract, and so you had the people who loved it and the people who hated it. But the one thing that I will always remember in one of the conversations with my father, my late father, Ellis Marsalis, we were discussing Cecil Taylor, and the one thing he said to me was, Cecil had a rhythm thing that was something else. And when I would listen at some of the solo pieces, I could hear what he was talking about. He did have a very strong rhythmic sound in what he was playing. And so we're going to try to emulate that on the drums, if you will. And this is a thing that is entitled Cecil's Jitney. Thank you. Now, we're going to change the pace quite a lot. And this is inspired by a story that I heard from the great drummer, Mr. Frankie Dunlop. Frankie Dunlop performed with pianist Thelonious Monk. He was in one of Monk's great quartets with Charlie Rouse. And it was, I think, along with bassist John Orr that Frankie Dunlop worked with a lot. And so there's I think it's an interview that's on YouTube, actually, where Frankie Dunlop talks about when he first played with Thelonious Monk. And I think he was thinking, I can't remember, but I think he was thinking that, oh yeah, this gig will be cool. There's not going to be any problems. And I think he may have had a little bit of an attitude. So when he gets to the gig and Monk calls the first tune, and it was a slow blues, I think it was Blue Monk. You know, they playing this tempo and they played the melody, and then once the melody was over, band stops and Monk looked at Dunlop and said, "You got it." And so Dunlop started to have some trouble. The things that he had worked out weren't really working at the tempo, and then of course Monk is egging him on and saying, "Yeah, come on, man, you can't be." Well, I'm not going to repeat what was said, but you know, Monk, I guess, sort of was having fun at his expense while teaching him a lesson at the same time. And so I often wondered, well, if I was called to have to solo on a slow blues, what was it that I would do? Or what is it that the drums could play on a slow blues? And so we're going to do that for you now. And this is called Dunlop's Lesson. Thank you. Now we're going to sort of cross genres, if you will, and as far as time periods, we're going to sort of go in one direction and the other direction. What was that? I think that album release of the most recent John Coltrane music, both directions at once. We're going to do that right now, and this is an ode to my realization that a lot of rhythms that are played on the drums are actually the same across genres. It doesn't matter the style of music you're playing, the rhythm is actually the same thing. You may articulate it in a different way, you may have a different sound, but it's the exact same rhythm. And so this is one discovery I had made when thinking of drums in a ragtime band and drums in a punk rock band. So, it's almost like thinking of somebody getting Sam Morgan's band confused with the Ramones, and they get mixed up and the two things kind of combine. So this is a thing entitled The Punk Rock Rag. Very much. Punk rock rag. Who would know? Who knew that punk rock and ragtime had so much in common? Now we're going to do a descriptive piece. And I'm going to play this first. And then when I'm done, I'm going to explain what the description is. So we hope that you'll enjoy this one. what that was describing is Paris traffic. Here's the thing. It was for 2 years that I lived in Orléans, France. And one of the tough drives was if you had to go in the morning to drive from Orléans to the Paris Charles de Gaulle airport. And one of the reasons that was tough is that without any traffic, the drive should take about an hour and a half. But when you add traffic, that thing goes from between 3 to 4 hours and maybe 5. So what the description is, that those low tom rolls was you in your car just sitting there driving slow, and then the snare drum rolls were motorcycles, because they have people on motorcycles and they would just be gone, and you're like you're just sitting there, and this isn't for the whole drive. It's once you get near Paris where the traffic just gets bad and you're just sitting there, and and then those motorcycles, they just breeze by, and you're just sitting there, and it's just this slow traffic. New York traffic has nothing on what happens in Paris, especially if it's in the morning and you're on your way to the airport. It's the slowest traffic I've ever experienced. Now, we're going to do something with traditional music, but this solo has a bit of a premise. The premise is you have this trad group, mostly older gentlemen, and so you have this young drummer. It's kind of a hot shot, and so they want him to just play a simple role, and they want him to play simple things. But there's all these complex things that he wants to play that have nothing to do with the music, but he wants to play them anyway, and they keep having to tell him, no, just keep this simple. But he ventures into making things complex anyway, and they're told, no, you got to keep it simple. And so that's what's going on with this particular solo. It experiments with traditional music, but it's all these complex things that are going on. That's okay for right now, but they're not okay if you're playing with a band that's playing traditional music. So we call this one the Trad Nerd. hope that you're enjoying the show tonight, or this morning, or this afternoon, or today, or whatever time zone that you're in, because we know that there's people joining us from all around the world. And we just wanted to say once again, for those of you who would like to contribute in helping out with the show, you can go to venmo.com/Jason Marsalis, paypal.me/Jason Marsalis, BasonStreetRecords.com/Jason, and also on Cash App, $Kaya Marsalis. That's $KAYAMARSALIS for those of you who have Cash App. And you can help contribute to the show that we're performing for you tonight. Now we're going to do an interesting mix for you. We're going to delve into some New Orleans funk. However, we're going to do it in an odd meter. We're going to do it in 7. Now, for those who know me well, there's one musician in particular that I'm going to be working with next week who plays the saxophone. And I'm sure if he's seeing this, he's probably laughing hysterically right now. Because I'll admit that I've had my own issues with tunes, certain types of tunes that are in 7. And what I'm referring to are the people that take standard songs and they sort of take a bar of 4 and they crunch it into a bar of 3. And so usually the kind of rhythm that you'll hear is a rhythm that's something like this. So in my book, that can get very boring very easily. It can be very uninteresting. Now, there's a way to make it work, but usually it doesn't. But anyhow, I believe in making 7 a little more organic. And so the 7 that we're going to play for you now is Picture 7, played by the drummer named Joseph Modeliste. He's known by his nickname Zigaboo. He was the drummer with the Meters, all those legendary records, all those legendary tunes, Sissy Strut, Hey Pocky Way, and Look a Pie Pie, and so forth. I mean, we could be here for hours talking about the different tunes that they did and the different grooves that Zig was laying down. So, sort of picturing if he was to play in 7, what that would be like. And so, this is a thing entitled Zig 7. Thank you very much. Zig 7. Hope you liked that one. Now, we have a little short descriptive piece, and we'll play this one first, and then we'll explain what it is once the piece is done. All right. That descriptive piece was entitled A Day at the Office. And so what you have is someone who's working at the office they're not really doing much at first, they're just sort of trying to figure out what they have to do, and they're just kind of messing around on the desk, and they realize, oh, okay, I've got to write a letter. So they write a letter, and they write whatever letter or whatever memo they have to write, and they erase it, and they have to rewrite something, and erase this and rewrite something else. And so they also have access to a really old typewriter. I guess they've had it for, I don't know, 30 years or whatever. And so you hear the sound of typing. Of course, you may have heard the sound of whiteout as well. When you type the wrong word, you have to white it out. And for those who even know what that is, because that's a very long time ago when that would happen. Because nowadays, we just use computers and you can erase it and fix it right there. But there was a time where if you made a mistake on a typewriter, this is even before typewriters could actually delete and clear out letters. You had to white it out and then type it over. Yeah, that was a descriptive piece entitled A Day at the Office. Now, we're going to do another thing that's in 7. And this is going to feature the mallets. And this is a thing that we simply call mallet games. Thank you very much. Now, we're going to do a cover of a tune for you. This is a thing that is written by a great saxophonist that I first met years ago when I was a high school student, and I was in Greensboro, North Carolina, and a gentleman introduced us and told me, hey man, I want to introduce you to this guy that's going to be going to the University of New Orleans this coming year. His name is John Ellis. I was like, hey man, how you doing? And little did I know that I would actually end up recording and working with John Ellis for just over the years. And so this is a tune that I recorded with him on an album entitled One Foot in the Swamp. And it's a crazy, odd metered tune that was his tribute to playing video games. And the old video games, like the ones where you would have to go to an arcade and play them. Not necessarily the ones you play on your computers now. But it was this odd metered tune, and after a while, I started to get the hang of it, and I started having fun with it, and so there was a lot of different things rhythmically that you could get into with this tune. So it's one, even though there isn't saxophone and bass and piano and so forth, it's a piece that can still be played on the drums. So we hope that you will enjoy this one. This is entitled Bonus Round. we've got another one that we're going to cover for you. And this is actually taken from, inspired by rather, the music of the band Weather Report. This is a rhythmic interpretation of a little tune that comes off of the album Mysterious Traveler. It was a 1974 release. And this is a thing called Scarlet Woman. We hope that you enjoy. Thank you. That was a rhythmic interpretation of Scarlet Woman from Weather Report. So now we're going to do one more for you. Let the drum kit. And before we do our last one, just wanted to let you know, for those of you who are liking what you're hearing and you wanted to help contribute to this show, you can go to venmo.com/Jason Marsalis, paypal.me/Jason Marsalis, and BasonStreetRecords.com/Jason, and Cash App, $ Kaya Marsalis, Kaya Marsalis, Marsalis. And so this last one that we're going to do is something that is in tribute to my late father, Ellis Marsalis, who unfortunately passed away about a month ago and left a really large hole in the music world. And the thing that I'm going to play for you was actually played right before this stream. For those of you who may have signed on a little early and heard this trio music, that was a recording that my father and I did together. And this is a rhythm that started when I was, I think I was maybe a senior in high school. I was still living with him at the time. And I was upstairs on the drums and I was practicing. And so I came upon this rhythm. I started to hear this rhythm. And sometimes when I would hear a specific rhythm, I would just keep playing it. And so I kept playing it. And so my father walked upstairs and he liked it and was smiling and nodding. And then he asked me, man, keep playing that. So he goes to the piano and started to play this bass line. He played it, and after a while, he's writing it down. And he just said, yeah, I like that. I'll do something with that. And so it was maybe, I don't know, a week later or something, he came to me and said, that bass line thing that we had worked on, it leads into an arrangement for Sir with the fringe on top, and he played it and how it was going to go, and there was a key change and all this stuff. And so we ended up doing that as a trio, and we did a few different recordings of it, actually. And so what I'm going to do for you now is what the drums did on that arrangement and what the solo represented. So this is called Ease Surrey Ride. Thank you very much. So that's going to do it for the one man drum show this evening. We'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, whether it was on Facebook or YouTube. And we'd like to thank everybody who supported and contributed to the show. And one last thing before we go, I just wanted to talk about the theme music for the hour. Now, you're probably thinking there is no theme music. And I'm saying, yes, there is actually theme music, and you're hearing it right now. That's this. And you're probably thinking, no, you're just clicking your sticks. There's no melody, there's no harmony. That's not theme music. And I'm here to tell you, it actually is theme music. In fact, I'm actually borrowing this theme music, maybe stealing. It's music that is indeed from a television show that airs on Sundays. It's a news magazine show entitled 60 Minutes. It is on that show that you have the iconic stopwatch that represents time. And that's been their theme music, even though there's not melody and harmony. There is rhythm. That has been their theme music for many years. And I thought it was apropos to use that theme music for this show, because this show demonstrates not only all of the possibilities of rhythm and the possibilities of time, but also the fact that rhythm is a universal element that is everywhere. I think that as a people, the more that we understand things that are universal, the more that we understand things that we have in common with each other. And I believe then we will be better as a people, the better that we understand those things. So time is in essence of something that does not stop and does not end, but time does have rhythm. And like the heartbeat or the walking of people, whether it's at a fast pace or a slow pace, well, wherever it is that you're going, has a rhythm also. And so with that, with the heartbeat of a person and with time, proves the fact that rhythm is truly universal. Have a good night.